So in this video, I want to introduce you to how we can expand double brackets. Now, when we've been expanding single brackets, the idea is that everything that is on the outside of your bracket multiplies with whatever's inside the bracket. So, for example, if you've got 3 lots of x plus 2, I know I need to multiply the 3 by the x and the 3 by the 2. So whatever's multiplying on the outside needs to multiply with everything in that bracket. It's precisely the same with expanding double brackets, because what we need to do is to multiply the x plus 1 by the x and the x plus 1 by the 2. So what you can do is you can think of it and expanding it this way. So you're multiplying like the x plus 1 is the 3 here. So you've actually got x plus 1 times x, and then you've actually got x plus 1 times 2. And then, of course, you can multiply the x by the x, and the 1 by the x, and the x by the 2, and the 1 by the 2, and expand it that way. Okay? That's not generally the way that people get taught to do it, but essentially it is that. Okay? And now, the reason why it's not generally taught that way is because although it's reducing a 2 bracket problem to 2 single bracket problems, in a lot of ways errors can still be found doing that way, can still be carried forward doing it that way. So there tends to be other alternatives to that. Okay, and there's 2 main ways of tackling it. So, x plus 1, x plus 2. Now, the 2 main ways that get taught in schools would be FOIL and expanding using a grid. Okay, and I will essentially show you both of them. Now, whenever I'm expanding brackets, although I'm using the concept of FOIL, so I'll explain what that means in a moment, the way that my brain is thinking about this is that everything that is in this bracket needs to multiply with everything that is in that bracket. So the x needs to multiply with the x needs to multiply with the 2, the 1 needs to multiply with the x, and the 1 needs to multiply with the 2. And someone, I'm not sure who it is, came up with FOIL as a way of remembering that. So this stands for first, so that means the x multiplies with the x. You've got the O, which stands for outer, outer. So the x multiplying with the 2. You've got the I standing for inner. So the 1 multiplies with the x. And the L stands for last. So the 1 multiplies with the 2. So what you get is a way of remembering that everything needs to multiply with everything else. I don't think remembering FOIL really helps in the grand scheme of things, but it is a way that is often taught. Okay? So if we go about it that way, then we're looking at the first, which is x times x, so that's x squared. Then the outer, so then you've got the x times the 2, so that's 2x. Then you've got the inner, which is 1 times x, so just x. And then you've got the last, which is the 1 times the 2, so that's plus 2. So then you collect like terms, because we've got the x squared, which stands by itself. You've got 2x and x, which makes 3x, and then you've got the plus 2. And so that is now fully expanded and simplified. So your alternative is using a grid. Now, if you used a grid for the multiplication of single brackets, then you may find that using a grid for double brackets will also be useful. So x plus 1 times x plus 2, the way that you would set that out is x plus 1 down one side, and then x plus 2 along the top. And this forces you to make sure that you're multiplying everything by everything else. So x times x gets you the x squared, x times 2 is 2x, x times 1 is 1x, and then 1 times 2 makes the 2. So you get the x squared, 2x plus x is 3x, and then the 2. And of course you can't leave it in the grid, you've got to make sure you write your final answer like this. Okay? So this is how you expand double brackets. As I said, I don't tend to remember it as FOIL. I just make sure I multiply everything by everything else inside the brackets. That's my preferred way of doing it. But you may find that multiplying out in a grid will be useful. If you find that useful, go with it. This is going to be useful in a form of doing it when you get to if you go on to A-level mathematics and you go on to something called polynomial division. So we use you can use a grid method like that to do polynomial division. So it's quite useful to kind of start embedding that now.